Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the Spiritual Warrior Experience. This video will provide some additional tips on ways to progress further in our spiritual practices through both meditation and moment-to-moment life. In this video, we will discuss egos, meditation, clairvoyance, discernment, intuition, and one additional bonus tip at the end. Some of these tips are evolutions of my own direct experience, or Gnosis, and while I am a student on this path as well, I've discovered many people have found something useful in each of these tips. So let's begin. As previously mentioned and covered in my ego death video on this channel, dissolving our egos will result in a continuous improvement of our psychological state. The egos being psychic aggregate personalities within us, or animal wills vying for control of our three minds, as opposed to our divine will, our human will. Well, those are our divine will and our human will. However, it goes far beyond even this. In the physical, they appear as negative thoughts, like pride, anger, lust, and more. They also appear as powerful emotions and physical impulses. In the astral, where many of us dream, or perhaps even lucid dream, or perhaps even astral project, depending on how developed your awareness is, the egos here appear as actors, especially in dreams, in the drama of our dreams. They appear as characters, as friends, and even as family. Of course, depending on the behavior of family in dreams, it could also be parts of our being. If you're interacting with your mother in a dream and she has a superior quality, she's virtuous, she's not, angry or demanding, right, or in any way egoic, then that representation is likely your divine mother. Same for interacting with any entity in a lucid dream or a dream. So there are many varieties of ego. Let us return to the example of ego in the form of an ego tree. Perhaps some of you have seen this kind of tree in astral experiences, depending on how aware you are becoming from daily meditation practice and moment-to-moment presence. You may have experienced a vision of an ego tree while outside your sleeping physical body. Even if you were only slightly lucid, this is an astral experience. What we call dreams are experiences that occur in the astral, either the astral within us or outside of us, if you want to think of it that way. We, of course, are the microcosmos within the macrocosmos, right? As above, so below. So, to see a big tree in your bedroom or backyard, especially one that creates chaos in that bedroom or blocks out the light of the sun in your backyard, is to see an ego tree. This tree represents the legion of psychic aggregates, also known in the Gnostic Teachings as ego. A tree has big support roots to prevent it from falling over. This is very important because it's the tiny roots of the tree, which are known as the feeder roots, that supply the tree with nourishment. The big roots actually just support the tree. They don't feed the tree. So these roots, these feeder roots, work up near the surface of the soil, of the earth, to absorb water, minerals, and oxygen. In the same way, all our countless little negative thoughts and emotions and impulses that we experience each day are draining our energy. The ego tree within us has feeder roots. If you're transmuting sexual energy upwards and inwards, but are not dissolving these little egos that you comprehend throughout the day with self-observation, begin now. Because No matter how small these psychic defects or psychic aggregates or egos may be, we must ask our inner Divine Mother in those moments of comprehension and observing them in motion during our day. We must ask her, "My Mother, please dissolve this defect," or something that resonates with you of the same kind of request. "My Mother, please disintegrate this defect," or "Please eliminate this defect, my Mother." That is our Divine Mother's mission. That is her mission, to help us liberate our bottled up consciousness from within each of the numerous egos that we carry. By dissolving away all of these feeder roots, these lesser egos, the main root of the whole tree will begin to wilt with time and effort and consistency. And once the tree begins to wither, we gain far more energy to achieve spiritual progression. That tree then becomes the tinder for the fire of awareness within us. But of course, in the beginning, right, we can't chop the tree down right away. We have to, although many of us want to do that, we have to work on these feeder roots. Going beyond in meditation. So for this tip, we face a classic dilemma. Easy to say, difficult to do. Now, of course, with practice, this becomes less difficult, but in the beginning especially, if you've seen my previous video where I discussed the red demons of Seth, which is an Egyptian esoteric concept, you'll understand what I mean by the easy to say, difficult to do part of this. So here's what I'll say. Go beyond your current daily meditation time. In fact, go beyond your perception of what meditation even is. Go beyond the physical senses. Go beyond emotion. Go beyond mind, intellect. Go beyond willpower. And even go beyond consciousness. Whichever you have yet to go beyond, put greater effort into triumphing and achieving and go beyond. Now, myself, I have yet to achieve going beyond many of those steps with any consistency. I share this because it is important for all of us to self-reflect upon, even those of us who have indeed gone beyond many of the aforementioned aspects. This relates to the Heart Sutra given by Buddha Shakyamuni. I'll place a link in the description below to a video from Astral Doorway explaining this incredible mantra, which can be used in meditation to help us go beyond, well, everything. While going beyond into the illuminating void, as it's known, is essential, it is also important to comprehend that everything happens in levels. So if you are meditating for 20 minutes daily and have become very consistent, then go beyond. Start meditating for 30 minutes daily. If you are meditating 20 minutes but not consistently, then go beyond that and become consistent. Meditate 20 minutes every day, even and especially on the days you do not feel like meditating. We each require super efforts to achieve deeper spiritual progression. Therefore, we must be as spiritual warriors in this effort to go beyond. Gaining spiritual experience requires a certain amount of acceleration. Otherwise, we risk deceleration and even a degeneration of our current level. Consistency is indeed key, both in the consistency of daily practice and in the consistency of pushing ourselves into new levels of practice. 100 or more years ago, when occultists wished to publicly discuss the development of conscious imagination, they renamed it Clairvoyance to avoid public ridicule. This is because all who adhere to the doctrine of the I, or in other words, the ego doctrine of physical sensations, mistakenly identifies reality with the egos, or egos with reality, with those psychic aggregates, the multiple false personalities. Many will say, well, this is all there is, or it's just what I sense. Our egos fear us gaining true sight or divine clairvoyance, for this means we begin to see their true forms in the astral. It means we progressively stop dreaming and start to awaken in the experiences that we formerly called dreams. Yet, it is possible to develop something like egoic clairvoyance. It is possible to awaken Kundalini and our chakras in a negative way through forceful means that ride the backs of our egoic animal wills. Hence why ego dissolution is essential. Furthermore, our Divine Mother needs us to arm her with the cosmic fire of creation through white tantra alchemy or some form of transmuting creative sexual energies upwards and inwards. This is the fire that dissolves our egos upon conscious request to our Divine Mother, but more on this towards the end of the video in that bonus tip I mentioned. With conscious imagination, we can supercharge the dissolution of or disintegration of an ego with help from our Divine Mother. You can think of it as amplifying the effect. Thus, even more of our ego can be dissolved and returned back into the essence we carry within, which is our consciousness, and everything about our spiritual practice can deepen and progress. When you're practicing energy control, also known as pranayama, imagine your creative energies traveling up your spine and into your heart and pineal gland. Imagine that you can see or sense this energy, even if at first you have difficulty or you don't literally see it. Imagine that you can see it. Or if it is very subtle, imagine that it is a very subtle thing you can see. Conscious imagination is like a spiritual muscle. Once you have concentration and meditation through a lot of practice each day, and especially if you're transmuting your sexual energy upwards and inwards, this spiritual muscle of conscious imagination or clairvoyance will grow with daily practice. So in this way, developing conscious imagination or clairvoyance is a powerful and eventually essential skill in dissolving the egos in which our consciousness itself is largely trapped or imprisoned. When you ask your Divine Mother to dissolve an ego, consciously imagine that ego dissolving. You can imagine a sphere that's dissolving. Or you can imagine something you saw in the astral or a dream the night before or previously, and now you've comprehended it. Or you can even imagine a scene from physical waking life, maybe while you're in that scene or maybe just after. And then imagine that dissolving as you ask your Divine Mother something like, "My Mother, please dissolve this ego." You can do the same thing for worries about the future. You can imagine that scene that you were worrying about. That scene that you were worrying about, that is imagination. But we're using it mechanically in that instance where we're being caught up in a worry. If you catch yourself worrying, capture that worry in your observation, see it for what it is, and then ask your Divine Mother, please dissolve this defect or this ego, right? Psychological defect. And it may not happen immediately, but it will happen with time. It might also happen immediately. That's why these feeder egos are so important to work on, because when they're smaller, when they're lesser, not only are they nourishing the tree, our ego tree, but they're easier to dissolve with less time. So even if you cannot literally see the image, it is there in your energy field, in your psyche, in your consciousness. And by imagining such a thing, we give it energy. Meaning we give our Divine Mother the energy to dissolve the ego as we ask with all of our heart and all of our soul. So as we dissolve the lesser egos that feed the greater egos, as we go a little more beyond with meditation practice, and as we work with conscious imagination, we begin to attain the ability to discern. This happens in levels and has nothing to do with thoughts or emotions. Each of our three minds are meant to be a tool, not a master. Yet, many of us mistake our preferred mind for the master. For some, it is the intellectual mind that is mistaken as the master. This person often says, I think this, I think that. For others, it is the emotional mind that is mistaken as the master. This person often says, I feel this, I feel that. For some, they simply want to do something with their hands. This person acts on impulse. And yet, the thinking, feeling, and physical minds are inferior. This is because our minds are infested by the animal wills, either most of the time or even part of the time. And we have not gained the ability to access the superior versions of the thinking and emotional mind and the divine intelligence and wisdom within us. For example, it's often been depicted that when Christ was born in the manger, he was surrounded by animals. These animals represented the egos we carry within, our animal wills, each vying for its own desires within the house. The house in the astral, or home in the astral, is a representation of our inner psychology, of our body or bodies. So the inferior egoic intellectual mind conducts a discordant symphony of theories and concepts, and the inferior egoic emotional mind creates a stormy sea of worries and doubts, angers, frustrations, and more. And deep meditation is a temporary escape. However, dissolving the animal wills is the path to true liberation. As we progress from level to level of liberation from our egos, our animal wills, then our ability to discern, to perceive egos in motion, will grow. By dissolving those feeder egos and denying the larger egos of their nutrition, the energy of our consciousness is reclaimed, level by level, feeder ego by feeder ego. It is a wonderful reality that also requires a warrior's discipline. That energy helps us gain experience with how to discern when an ego is working within us, and eventually we can start to discern the voice of our innermost being. Intuition is the silent voice of our innermost being, that which is also called Atman, related to the sphere of Chesed on the Kabbalah tree. Because our intuition is a silent voice, it will be a fuzzy and hazy thing to hear when we begin on the path of awakening. Imagine a deck of cards. At any given moment, when we seek to receive an answer from our intuition, from our innermost being, it is like we receive a deck of cards. Among that deck of many cards, one card is an answer from our innermost being. The remaining cards are all of our egos, all of our multiple animal wills creating noise with thoughts and feelings and impulses that are vying for control of our vessel, our vehicle, our chariot. The correct card is simple. Divinity is simple yet profound in wisdom and love. The wisdom of our innermost is not comparative thoughts or intellectual reasoning theories. The wisdom of our innermost is like a hunch that says, yes, yes, yes. The love of our innermost is likewise. It is a yes, yes, yes. And sometimes, even when we draw the correct card by listening to the silent voice of our innermost, those egos within, those psychic aggregates, will attempt to interpret that answer with comparative intellectualizations and with lower emotional reactions. So even when we begin to hear that silent voice answer us, we must continue to be vigilant like warriors in wartime and wait for comprehension to arrive through that same intuition. Perhaps that intuitive comprehension will ask us to study some aspect of Gnostic teachings from an awakened master, Buddha or Jesus or Samael or various Gnostic teachings. Or perhaps it will use something we already comprehend as an allegory. We must be patient, and with effort and consistent practice, we will become those who have ears to hear. Here are some things you can do to help develop your intuition. Meditate every day. Through daily meditation, practice self-observation, learn to observe thoughts, emotions, and impulses with non-attached observation, meaning not identifying with the thought, not being carried away by the thought or not letting the wave of emotion wash over you and overwhelm, just experiencing the wave of emotion like a tingle of energy passing through the body. Study the Gnostic Teachings to understand the symbolism of divinity that appears in the astral and in the physical. Practice the O mantra for up to an hour a day. This is the O mantra. Start with 5 or 10 minutes and increase that over time, and play with how you want to mantralize it, how you want to, you can sing that mantra, or you can, more chant it. And just, it's important that you feel that in the heart center, and, start at a volume that is comfortable with you, and you can feel the resonating vibration in your heart center. And as you go deeper into meditation, you can go quieter and quieter with the mantra. Place awareness into your heart chakra, into your heart center during meditation sessions, or whenever you have moments of quieter times during the day. Throughout the day, self-remember and place awareness in the heart center. During meditation, you can pray to the Divine Mother. And lastly, meditate and concentrate on profound divine music such as Mozart and Beethoven to further develop the connection to the heart chakra, to bridge into the heart center, which is where the voice of our innermost, our intuition, emanates from. And so now for the bonus tip. I've spoken about this subject before, but in case this is the first video you've happened to watch and are unaware of it, the biggest secret of secrets to spiritual progression, the very thing that acts like rocket fuel for all those previous tips, is practicing the upwards and inwards transmutation of sexual energy. What most of us do our whole lives is allow our sexual energy to go downwards and outwards. This is how society teaches everyone to use this energy. We live in an age when such knowledge is considered healthy and normal. Unfortunately, this could not be further from the truth. Consider the esoteric symbolism of a devil's tail or Satan's tail. What might that represent esoterically? Could it be a visual clue to what happens when energy goes downwards and out? Conversely, why do so many esoteric depictions of angels have wings? Why does the caduceus symbol, seen on practically every building and vehicle responsible for healing, have both wings, a staff, which esoterically represents the spine, and serpents going upwards? Why is it said the Buddha raised the serpent 7 times? Why do ancient depictions of Egyptian gods have a serpent atop their heads, a risen upward serpent? You don't have to take my word for it. In fact, don't just believe what I'm saying. Run the experiment. Do a scientific experiment. Take a month to practice this. Just 30 days where you take a pause from allowing sexual energy to go downwards and out, and instead work with guided meditations that teach how to send this energy upwards and inwards. This energy control method, called pranayama, can be done for 10 minutes each day, or better yet, twice a day, especially when you wake up and then before bed. I'll provide links to a couple Hamsa pranayama guided meditations, which are, of course, really just a fancy way to say energy control meditations. I'll also provide links to further videos providing information on transmuting sexual energies. And that's it for this episode. I hope you found some of these tips helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to add them in the comments below. Thank you to everyone on Patreon for supporting the channel and for some of you increasing your pledges. That's very kind of you. I'm very grateful. We have been doing a lot of conversations in the Discord, as usual, more than normal lately. It's been very productive. We're all sharing our experiences, our challenges, and the advice that we're coming across very synchronistically. If you would like to join us on the Discord, you can find the link to the Patreon below in the description. Thank you in advance, and it's always good to see new faces in the community. And we'll be doing our monthly Q&A in February coming up here, and that should be a good time. We had a pretty, constructive conversation with our first one. And until the next video, I wish you all lots of happiness, joy, and peace, and great triumphs in your spiritual progression. Thank you for watching.